Do you want to know how people fail in sales? Keep watching this video if you don't want to fail yourself in sales. And I mean, really take it seriously. Because if you keep doing what most other salespeople are doing, blaming their leads, blaming their offer, blaming their manager, blaming the marketing, you are literally guaranteeing your own mediocrity. And this video is going to help you fix that. If you don't know me, hi, my name's Christian. I have generated over $100 million over the past 3 years in sales, and I have coached literally thousands of sales reps to do the same. And let's first explain a quick story, because honestly, I think a little bit of heart to heart here is really what's going to make this hit home for some people. Now, when I first started sales, I was barely making any money, right? I used to be a teacher. I was making even less as a teacher. And so when I first got into sales, I was barely making any money. I was working my ass off. I was spending usually 12, 14 hours a day working. I was also training at the same time. And I was really struggling to scale up my income and make the money that I actually wanted to make. When I first got into sales, I thought that 10K a month was like the ultimate goal. And if I could just do that, then I will have made it and I would be set for the rest of my life. I'd be completely happy with just 10K a month. And in my first year of sales, I had a couple of realizations, and it took owning up quite a bit in a few different ways. So the first big realization that I had was that skills pay the bills. At the end of the day, every human being has a voice, right? Pretty much every human being is able to hold a conversation with somebody else. And there's no difference there between people who are making 100K a month versus people who are making 5K a month. They both talk to other people. And so it's just learning, what words do you use? How do you say them? How do you show up on the call? What is the energy that you need to have? How do you frame things? How do you make sure that you handle objections before they actually come up? And how do you reframe limiting beliefs? How do you change mental models? All that kind of stuff. It's just skills, right? Tony Robbins has this thing, and I know I've heard some other people talk about it, but it's so true. Like, you don't live life according to the goals that you have for yourself. You live life according to the level of skill that you're able to have. And if you don't have what you want in your life, it's not because you are defective. It's not because you suck at this thing just naturally, although you might, like I did. It's not because you just are not inherently adept at the thing. It's not because of some special talent that you don't have. It is literally just because you haven't learned the skills. It is as simple as that. If you don't make the money that you want to make, you haven't learned the skills in order to make the money that you want to make. If you don't have the body that you want to have, you haven't learned the skills of building the body that you want to have. If you don't have the spouse, it's just because you haven't learned the skills of attracting and garnering a relationship with the person that you want to be your spouse at the end of the day. And so the first realization that I had in sales that I think really just set me off on the right path was that this entire game of life is just about skill acquisition. If you can acquire certain skills and stack them in the right way, then you're going to never have any problems that you cannot solve in your life. And so for me, that also led into the second big lesson, which is investing into these skills, right? You can learn skills in a couple of different ways. The first way, in my opinion, is just experience, right? You can gain skills by just doing the thing over and over and really just missing out on everything in your life because it just takes time. Whereas another way that you can earn skills is by mentoring under somebody, right? Learning the skills from somebody else's experience. Either way, skills take time. And so whether you pay for it or whether somebody else pays for it in their time doesn't really matter, but you're going to have to trade their time for your money, right? If you think about Thomas Edison, he invented the light bulb, and he often wrote about how he had to learn 10,000 ways first to not make a light bulb in order to come up with a way to make a light bulb. And then once he finally came up with the way to make a light bulb, he was paid for the experience. He was paid for not the one time that he got it right. He was paid for the 10,000 times that he got it wrong. That's where most people don't quite get it. Top quality salespeople, top quality sales professionals do not get paid for when they close the deal. They get paid for all the times that they didn't close the deal and they struggled through it to learn, to train, all the hours that they put in. If you think about a professional athlete or a professional musical artist, right? They put in so many hours of practice in order to then do this thing at a level to which they can get paid well for it, right? A concert pianist will get paid tens of thousands of dollars to go and perform for one night. But it's not because like the music is that much better than anybody else's, while at some level it is going to be. It's because of the time and the effort and the experience that's required in order to gain that level of skill that then becomes valuable in that way. That's it. So skill acquisition is number one. Learn the right skills and learn as many of them as you can. Get as good at them as you can. And then number two is investing into skills, right? Point number three, I would say the biggest realization in sales is something that I think sales honestly teaches better than anything else in life. And it's one of the reasons that I personally feel like sales is one of the ultimate personal development vehicles. Lots of people will go to Tony Robbins seminars, lots of people will read books, lots of people will become more spiritual, lots of people will do a lot of different things, right? In order to develop themselves personally. I truly believe that sales is one of the greatest personal development experiences because it forces you to take ownership, especially commission-only sales. If you have a base, I don't think it's necessarily the same, but commission-only sales really forces you to take ownership in terms of it all comes down to you. The buck stops here. If you're not making the money that you want to make, what do you need to change? If you're not closing deals, what do you need to fix? If you're losing deals to this objection, how do you learn to actually handle that objection? And so then by being in commission-only sales, you end up becoming very resourceful in terms of finding the answers to what you want in your life. And more often than not, you're not actually taught that anywhere else in life. You're certainly not taught it in school. You're certainly not taught it at other jobs, if you're working at Starbucks or even in corporate, whatever. Pretty much everywhere in your life, there's some level of other people helping you achieve a result, or whether you achieve the result or not doesn't really affect your life that much. But in commission-only sales, you have nowhere to hide. It sucks when you are not closing deals. I can't tell you, I've coached thousands of sales reps at this point, and a very, very, very large majority of them struggled with making the money that they wanted to make at some point. And it eats you from inside, especially if you have a family, especially if you have kids, especially if you have responsibilities outside of sales, if you have a mortgage, if you have to pay rent, if you don't have a lot saved up in the bank, if you don't have cash flowing assets, which, like, let's be real, most people get into sales because they want to make a lot of money, not because they already made a lot of money, right? And so when you're in the position where you want to make a lot of money because you don't have a lot of money, but then you're not able to do it, and so then you see your bank account just like slowly drain, it is very anxiety inducing. And I've seen it time and time again. But the biggest lesson that I learned, especially in my first year of sales and going into my second year, was just that idea of extreme ownership and taking responsibility for the own outcomes in my life, because I had never really been taught that at that high of a level before, right? Now, there's a couple of excuses that people will typically make that I do want to call out here, because again, I've coached thousands of sales reps. I see what's going on in the industries. I see what managers see. I see what reps see. I get to have a very cool third-party unbiased perspective of all of it. And I just want to bring some of these things to your attention. And if any of these you find yourself doing, stop immediately. Do not do it anymore, because at the end of the day, remember, it comes down to you. And if you're focused on what you don't want in your life, there's a saying that where your focus goes, your energy flows, and what you focus on grows. So if you're focused on what you don't want in your life, you're going to see more of it. If you've ever bought a car and then you see it out in the wild, right, out in the real world much more, it's your reticular activating system growing whatever you focused on, because you bought that car and now you're going to focus on it more out there in the world. And so if you focus on the negative things in your life, you're going to see it more out there in the world. You're going to see it more come into your life, and it's going to eat at you from the inside. So there's a couple of things here. The first one is, my offer sucks. Cool. Then why are you still fucking there? It's your responsibility to vet your offers. It's your responsibility to network with other closers, with managers, with offer owners, and find a vehicle that actually suits you, that pays you, that you like, that you enjoy, that brings you quality leads, etc., etc. You don't stay stuck and complain. You have to get resourceful and be willing to pivot, right? And you have to be willing to get through the suck in order to get to good times, right? Nothing is great at first, right? If it is, it's probably a scam. So like, be very, very careful. But nothing is great at first. Like, you have to eat shit in order to fertilize the grass to grow on the other side. Everybody always says the grass is greener over there. Yeah, it's greener because there's shit fertilizing it in the soil. So stop thinking that like, oh, my offer sucks, so I need to like bounce or whatever. Like, stop wallowing and do what you can. All right, the next one is, my leads suck. All right, then why aren't you building more of a gap on the call? Why aren't you selling your vehicle more to where, like, yeah, maybe they're a little bit colder. Maybe they aren't a complete laydown. Maybe they don't think that your offer is the best fucking thing in the world, and they know exactly what it is. They have all the information, and they are coming on the call just saying, hey, please take my credit card. Like, why aren't you mastering your objection handles? Weak leads are not an excuse. Colder leads are not an excuse. They are simply a test of your skill. I guarantee I can put any one of my top guys from the dojo inside of your offer right now, and they will convert almost goddamn every one of the bad leads. But average sales professionals will blame the bad leads. You can't do it. You can't say, but my leads suck, right? So here's a couple of things that you need to do in order to overcome these. Number one is radical ownership. That thing that I learned in my first year, it sucked. There were so many times that I wanted to quit. But the first thing to do if you're not making money is stop pointing fingers. Every time you point your finger at somebody else, there's 4 more pointed right back at you, right? You are the one that has to fix this. Nobody is coming to save you. The second thing you have to do is analyze your offer, right? Actually understand, is it really possible to make good money here? Are there other closers crushing it with this offer? And like, if the answer is yes, then the offer isn't the problem, you are. And even if there aren't other closers making the money that you want to make on this offer, watch their calls. Do you believe that you can do better than them? If the answer is yes, the offer isn't the problem, you are. And this isn't bad news. Most people will think like, oh shit, I'm the problem, that sucks. No, it doesn't suck, it's good news, because it means that you can fucking fix it. All right, now step 3, the last one, is actually look at your sales skills and your sales process. Where are you leaking deals? Where are you losing things? Is it in discovery? Is it in objections? Is it in a weak close? Whatever it is, try to identify it as quickly as you can and fix it even faster. That's how the top reps actually make the most money. Now, if you don't know how to find where your biggest leaks are, where your biggest gaps are, you don't have to figure it out alone. My personal recommendation is to always go to somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing and they can point out your shit super duper quickly. So if you want that, along with daily coaching, the actual call reviews, and the exact frameworks that our top closers use to become the top 1% and top the leaderboard on every offer that they ever go to, join the Sales Dojo. It's free for the first 7 days, no risk, just results. Hit the link down in the description and get inside. I'll see you there.